What happened? That is the question many Western New Yorkers are asking tonight after a car crashed and exploded on the U.S. side of the Rainbow Bridge. Surveillance video released by authorities shows a car traveling at an incredibly high speed and going airborne before crashing into a checkpoint booth.
2 people inside that vehicle killed. Incident raising concerns and prompting added security measures on both sides of the border. But at this time, officials say there's no indication of a terrorist attack.
So yeah, this event happened at 11:22 on 11/22, which is interesting. So 11/22 is the day that John F. Kennedy was shot, which means hole in the head. He was shot in the head. JFK, John, Jacob, middle pillar. Getting shot in the head, the pineal gland opens. This video is made possible by the generous support of TrueLove.com members. If you like this content and would like to show your support, visit TrueLove.com/membership to become a member, where you'll be able to access additional content, interact with other members through the TrueLove.com app. You are free to cancel anytime. These events are not to be taken literally. They are allegorical stories of ascension. They are there to wake you up to the truth. Some of the things that I mentioned in this decode have been pointed out in my Discord by my Discord members, and also some of my viewers have emailed me about this event. So if I have mentioned anything that you've pointed out, thank you very much for pointing them out. Niagara Falls, it represents the cerebrospinal fluid, and Canada and the US is the border, is representing the 2 hemispheres of the brain. So the border is the gap, mind the gap. It's the gap between hemispheres of the brain. It's also the gap between worlds. So it's the TNT. That's why it's an explosion. TNT, kaboom.
Rena Roy has the very latest.
A massive police presence at the U.S.-Canada border along the Rainbow Bridge near Niagara Falls.
The Rainbow Bridge represents the chakra system, the 7 colors of the rainbow. The chakra system is your bridge to getting out of here. So you ascend, and the Rainbow Bridge is also the bridge to the other world.
FBI agents leading the investigation into a fatal explosion on the U.S. side.
Anytime a piece of infrastructure as important to Canada and the United States, like a border crossing, sees this kind of violent circumstance, it's a source of concern for the government of Canada and for the United States.
So it's a source of concern for the government, and the government is the control, the mind control. So the government is concerned because this is happening in the head.
Sources tell ABC News that investigators discovered a suitcase or briefcase on scene, the bomb squad handling the package. Sources also saying the vehicle was seen on surveillance footage, stopped at an initial security checkpoint before speeding up and crashing into the second checkpoint. It's unclear what caused the explosion.
The checkpoint is Pontius Pilate. It's the point at which you are judged. He stopped at the first one and he sailed through the second one. It's like he's forcing the gap. He's forcing ascension.
Yeah, Mary Alice. Right now, investigation continues in Niagara Falls. Police say it will take quite a long time to complete.
It's a monumental task.
And it's not going to happen overnight.
No stone will be left unturned in this investigation.
He said it was a monumental task and there would be no stone left unturned. The monument is a stone. It's a statue or a memorial, which refers to memory, and the stone is the pineal.
Right now, we don't know if it was the driver who experienced a medical emergency.
That's up to the medical examiner, and that's their side of it.
Or if it was an issue with the vehicle, a 2022 Bentley Flying Spur.
Every angle, everything will.
So is it 2022? So there's another 22, and it's a Bentley Flying Spur, and the car flew in the air. The flying in the air has to do with like ascension, taking off, rising into the sky, just like at the end of Grease.
Investigators have released the names of the 2 people killed in that fiery crash at the Rainbow Bridge earlier this week. Niagara Falls police say Kurt and Monica Villani passed away. They were husband and wife, well-known and respected business owners on Grand Island.
The names Kurt and Monica both refer to good deeds, and Villani means worker, kind of like Igigi, the Sumerian name for worker. Their neighbors made a point of mentioning that the couple did good deeds.
Our Jordan Johnson looks at the impact the Villanis made on their community.
The people who knew Kurt and Monica Villani say they were generous and caring Grand Islanders.
He's wearing a Nike swoosh, Nike shirt. Nike is victory. Victory is what you get when you overcome the 3D versus being a victim or subservient to the 3D.
2014, Channel 7 interviewed Kurt Villani during the Rock Out Hunger event as he and his son donated turkeys to those battling hunger in Western New York. And 7 News was sent this statement on behalf of the family and Geese Lumber. We would like to extend our sincere gratitude to all that extended prayers, condolences, and well wishes. We are deeply touched. At this point, we are requesting privacy so we may begin the process of healing.
As I said before, Villani means worker, which is a Gigi in Sumerian mythology. You are the worker. This couple was from Grand Island, for which the initials are GI, and their lumber company was Gi Lumber, which is also GI, so a Gigi. The address of the building was 1889, so there's an 88 there for the Lions Gate.
In a 7 News Facebook post, nearly 200 comments came in honoring and memorializing the couple by saying that the family...
Memorializing is another reference to memory, tied to monument, and, as you'll see, the flying white car. It's telling you that this is an event designed to make you remember. It's designed to wake you up. It's interesting how they have all this information so quickly. But anyway, the point is that it was a couple. It was a male and female in the car, in the vehicle, because you have to have merged the opposites. The couple never made it across the bridge, and they died at the toll booth, which to me suggests that they weren't able to ascend because they forced the awakening. However, I'm also going to say that it could be interpreted another way, that the emphasis on doing good deeds implies that they were living in Christ consciousness, so the point at which the car exploded is like the point in Back to the Future when Marty went through the hole in the wall.
4 senior law enforcement officials briefed on the situation.
Okay, so this is a clip that was taken near the event, and they happened to choose this location, which is an Indian restaurant. Now, India means in between, so middle, which is the middle path, the gap.
The explosion in Niagara Falls was caused as a result of a vehicle crashing into the checkpoint structure at the Rainbow Bridge in Niagara Falls at the U.S.-Canada border.
Okay, so here we have a lot of green, and you have 10:04. So if you've seen my Back to the Future decode, the time on the clock was 10:04, and 10:04 means the moment which you conquer time, the 4 elements, earth, wind, water, and fire, turning into one. So collapsing the physical, overcoming the physical. That's what gets you out of time.
The vehicle was traveling at a very high rate of speed, we are told. It hit the structure, caught on fire, and then exploded. An initial search, according to these officials, did not find a secondary explosive or device. That is, there's no initial indication so far of a bomb in the car. There are 2 casualties, we are told. Those are the occupants of the vehicle. Authorities are now trying to determine whether the incident was intentional, and if so, what was the motive here?
In many of these types of events, I have pointed out that the motive is unknown. I now know what this means. The Bible has a missing passage in John that follows, "Ask and it is given," which is something along the lines of asking without motive. And this means that you ask with honorable intentions, not in order to get something. This is to do with manifestation. This means that when you manifest, you trust that it is done. You do not keep asking with the motive to get, because that implies that you do not trust. So there's also a tower here. The tower is the central vortex that controls everything.
Car was coming from the U.S. into Canada, towards Canada?
Yes, it was going towards Canada, yes.
Okay, did it actually hit towards the bridge? Where was that elevated area?
There was a fence there that's fenced off around there. It looked like it hit part of the fence because it's all damaged. And then it went elevated up, and then it went up into the air, and then it was just a fireball. And
the fence represents the veil or the barrier between worlds.
Smoke everywhere.
And did you see officers like pulling weapons or doing anything like that?
Not till later. I'd never seen him pull a weapon, but it took about 10.
Notice this guy's wearing a plaid shirt, which usually represents that he's a Freemason.
10 minutes for, like, the border police were there, obviously, but it took about 10 minutes, and all of a sudden there were just police everywhere.
All right, did you hear any other noises or anything?
We heard a big bang.
A big bang. So the big bang is the atomic explosion in the head, the pineal popping. It is the moment that time is obliterated. It is the Back to the Future moment. It is Oppenheimer. So the big bang is the atomic explosion in the head. It's the end in the beginning.
Yeah.
Real out bang, and then,
yeah.
Then you saw this car and the explosion.
Yeah, and I said there's no way that guy's going to stop. There's no way he can stop. He's just going too fast.
You couldn't tell if it had what kind of license plates on it? Or
no,
anything?
no, we couldn't, no.
Well, how would you describe the car?
It looked like a Chrysler 300, but somebody told me it was a Bentley. But there's similar cars in that, so yeah.
Okay.
And he was swerving as he was going down this road here, fishtailing, because he was going so fast.
Were there any police cars following him?
No, I didn't see not one, no. And we waited, and we actually walked back to the border, and then we were there about maybe 10 minutes, and the police all started to come.
How many people could you see? How many people were in the car? Do you think
no,
just the driver?
I have no idea. No, we couldn't see. It was just, he was just going so fast.
You never saw anything like this before?
I've never seen anything like this. It was just incredible. The fire was so high up in the air. My only concern was I hope nobody else got hurt, because if anybody was in that way, I don't think they would have survived.
Did you?
I do find, I mean, he's one of the more believable witnesses that I have come across in all of the events. But I do find it odd that he's smiling about it when he knows that the person who was driving the car has died. Like, there's no way that this person has survived, if there was a person in the car at all. So he's smiling about that, but he's saying that he's concerned that he hopes the car didn't hit anybody else. So why is he not at all concerned about the driver of the car? I do find that odd.
See any ambulances or?
They came after, but it was quite a bit after. The fire trucks are there obviously first, and then the police came, and there were all kinds of police that came, and then the ambulance came after.
You couldn't see anybody being put in the ambulance?
No, I couldn't, no.
So we got another witness here.
New witness sound from earlier today. The event happened around 11:30 this morning, just before noon. Let's listen to what the witness had to say.
I work for Gray Line, and we're laid off this time of year. There was two witnesses I know, myself and another guy, and I came down to the One Niagara building to see how the sales guy was doing. And I
Again, he's one of the more believable witnesses, but he's throwing in all these irrelevant details. I came here to the One Niagara building and I was laid off. Like, we don't care. Why are you telling us this?
Closed the door to my car, and about 30 feet from me, I seen something airborne. I first thought it was an airplane. It looked like slow motion. And I said, my God, it's a car. And it's a vehicle, and it's flying through the air. He hit the concrete barrier, probably right at the signal, God knows how many thousands of feet before the bridge. It went airborne. The vehicle began to turn sideways and went under something overhead, and then it hit something over there. And my prayer was just, please don't let any of the officers, get hit over there. And then all of a sudden...
And this guy also has concern for the other people. No concern for the driver of the car.
Black smoke, no explosion. We all heard that.
So he says there was no explosion, but the other witness said it was a big bang, and he said there was an explosion. And they're using the word explosion to describe what happened. But I guess one man's explosion is another man's just set on fire.
People in the building heard it, the metal on metal. And I saw black smoke and then fire. There was no explosion, just the black smoke, and then there was so much smoke it was unbelievable. After a while, it probably took 5 minutes for law enforcement to get here. but that's exactly what happened.
How fast did you estimate that he was going?
Well, the other fella, the guy that drives the cab, says he thinks he was doing 100 miles an hour coming down this street here.
Could this car have been driving at 88 miles per hour?
But to me, it was like slow motion when the vehicle was up in the air. And he was just airborne. I can't imagine how it got that high up, so he had to be doing quite a speed for that to happen.
What was going through your mind?
Pardon me?
How were you feeling?
It was like a movie. It's strange because I can play it in my mind very fast or in slow motion. And it's like a movie. I'm saying, oh my, and then all of a sudden I see a vehicle. Look.
So he uses the phrase, it was like a movie, which is used often in these types of events. Granted, some people can say this, just regular people can say that it was like a movie, but every time something like this happens, that phrase comes out because it is a movie. And he says, I can play it back and forth in my head like it's a DVD or something. If you want to look at this allegorically, it does fit with the narrative of memory and manifestation, because when you try to manifest something, you visualize what you want to manifest as if it's done, and you play it in your head like a movie, because you are the writer, director, producer, and actor or star of your own movie.
It looked like an SUV, but who knows what I saw, but it was a vehicle and it was in the air.
How close would you say it was to where the bridge inspectors would be?
When the vehicle went airborne, it was down by this signal. It hit something like a concrete thing that goes on an angle, and then it went up. It was up in the air, and it started to turn sideways, and then it went in. At that point, I was just praying that it didn't hit any of the Border Patrol officers.
So you didn't...
Again, he says, I was praying that it didn't hit any of the Border Patrol. He doesn't care about the driver at all.
The FBI in Buffalo is investigating what it is calling a vehicle explosion at the Rainbow Bridge, a busy border crossing between Canada and the U.S. They had the situation.
It's funny to me. Of course, in the United States, they put New York and Canada. I mean, I understand because it's broadcast to the Americans, so they don't really care that this is Ontario. But it's like... It's like, we'll tell you what state this is, but we're going to tell you that the other side, oh, it's just Canada. Now, initially I said that these represent the two hemispheres of the brain, which they do. But as this is allegory, it represents multiple things at once. This also represents the body and the head. While New York is the crown, the United States represents the body. The United States is one. So when you have united your 7 chakras, you are united as one. So the border is what separates the body from the head, or the to know, Canada.
Between Canada and the U.S. The situation is very fluid. Here's what we know.
Now, this report uses the word fluid multiple times. The situation is very fluid because the situation is about the fluid. It's about the cerebrospinal fluid. The cerebrospinal fluid is Niagara Falls.
According to our 4 senior law enforcement officials that were briefed on the matter, this is video of that explosion that's come into our newsroom. From what we understand, a vehicle crashed into the checkpoint structure at the Rainbow Bridge. You're seeing it right here at a high rate of speed. It hit the structure, caught fire, and then exploded.
The fire represents baptism by fire. Being airborne means meeting Jesus in the air. It's raining at Niagara Falls, which is water. And the car was traveling at a high speed on Main Street, the spine to the top of the head, 33, on the ground, which is earth. These are the 4 stages of consciousness, also known as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The car was a Bentley Flying Spur, which is linked to horse, and it was white. So this represents the white horse of the 4 horses of the apocalypse on which Jesus arrives. Revelation 19:11, and I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. According to esotericmeanings.com, the white horse is Pegasus, which is the hippocampus or the memory. It goes on to say that if the pale horse is in the lead, we allow ourselves to be separated from God because we are consumed by our physical existence. If the black horse is in the lead, then we are questioning everything and trying to analyze that which cannot be analyzed, which is spirit. If the red horse leads, then you are at war with yourself and there are emotional issues for you to deal with. But if the white horse leads, the one of spirit and meditation, then you are going to conquer the other three horses. What this means in terms of manifestation is that it has to do with not letting the 3D dominate you. You overcome the physical or the four elements. You are trusting. You have no motive. Your focus turns within, not on what is outside yourself. You seek fulfillment within you through meditation, not outside of you through stuff and things.
An initial search did not find any indications of an explosive device in the car. I do want to stress this situation is very fluid. I want to get right to Ken Delaney, our Justice and Intelligence correspondent.
Good afternoon, Tom. I think you're right to caution viewers that this is a very fluid situation.
And Ken, explain to our viewers, because lawmakers have brought up the issue about the safety of the border.
The government officials have closed the roads or the bridges, which is the police or the duality police trying to keep you in the physical mind. The duality police can also be likened to the red men or the men in black or the men in hats who try to keep you in the old mind through fear and obstacles that you must persevere past in order to have your manifestation.
Our northern border with Canada, and if it indeed could be at times a soft target.
Yeah, that's right, Tom, because there is concern that there are not enough resources. At least that's what you hear from critics in Congress.
When he says that there aren't enough resources, this is referring to not enough oil in the lamp. If you don't do the inner good deeds, there won't be any oil to illuminate from within. The soft target is the brain.
There's relatively fewer staffing and resources around those border checkpoints, and that, in fact, they could be potentially soft targets targeted from people coming in from Canada.
I find it interesting that they are talking about how weak the defense is on the Canadian-U.S. border. Hello, anybody who wants to go through the border? There's not a lot of security there, so wink, wink. I mean, why? Why would you say such a thing? Obviously, you're giving yourselves away. I mean, there's not enough security at the Canadian-U.S. border. And it's a bone of contention. Well, we know this because it's one of the biggest undefended borders in the world. So, what does this tell you? What does this tell you? That the border is an illusion. It's an illusion, and we adhere to it.
And so, yeah, that the northern border is a flashpoint of concern, as are many other.
The border is a flashpoint of concern. What a strange choice of words. We used to have a TV show in Canada called Flashpoint. I was on it a few times. A place, event, or time at which trouble, such as violence or anger, flares up. Chemistry, the temperature at which a particular organic compound gives off sufficient vapor to ignite in air. Well, isn't that appropriate considering that this was about an explosion or something igniting? The flashpoint in reference to the border, which is the TNT or the dynamite, the explosion. This is where the two worlds collide in the head. The Oppenheimer event.
The FBI field office is investigating a vehicle explosion at the Rainbow Bridge, a border crossing between the U.S. and Canada in Niagara Falls. The FBI is coordinating with our local, state, and federal law enforcement partners in this investigation. As this situation is very fluid, that's all we can say at this time. And
fluid, fluid, fluid. Again.
Yo, oh my God, are they alright? Oh my God.
Okay, so this is a border. The border. And this dude is allowed to get out of his car and just casually film this event on his phone with Border Patrol guards standing there. And that's without taking into consideration that the FBI and other government agencies are looking at this initially as a terrorist attack.
Here's what we do know this hour. Niagara Falls police are now officially in charge of that investigation after it was determined that it was not an act of terrorism. The department's crash management unit is now in charge. 2 Western New Yorkers in the car died and 1 border agent was hurt, but is going to be okay. And today the scene was quiet, but we could see a bit more of the damage caused by the speeding car with ripped up earth, dents in the fencing, and damage to the concrete barrier. Again,
okay, so here's the fence. The fence is just it was a vertical fence.
Concrete barrier. Again, state and federal officials emphasized there was no explosive material in the car. When we asked police about any leads on the case, they had no comment. Good evening, everyone. I'm Claudine Ewing. With police not identifying the couple who died in the crash, we will not be using their names, but many people on Grand Island say they do know them, and they spoke with Channel 2's Ron Plants today about the couple and their well-known ties to this community.
This gathering of members of the Niagara Sailing Club on Grand Island following their morning 5K charity walk, tempered by the realization 2 other members had been lost in that terrible crash on the Rainbow Bridge. The shock setting in for these Grand Island residents as word spread.
But, okay, they didn't release their names, but they know who they are. So they know who these people are, although the police have not released their names. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to where they lived and show you all their friends and do a report on who they were as people and what they did, so we know who they are. This just does not make any sense. How can you get away with this if this was real? If this was a real couple? This is appalling reporting, like totally insensitive. Granted, there are not very many people who own a Bentley, but how on earth would you know that that is who they are if the police haven't released their names? How would you know? How would you know that it's your friends?
Not only were people talking, but then I made an announcement, and some people were just incredibly shocked. It's just, not only younger couple like that, but so ingrained and influential in this community.
I got home yesterday, didn't know anything other than hearing things on the news about the border, and saw that their driveway was filled up with all these cars, and I'm like, oh, they're having Christmas or Thanksgiving early. And it's like, that's really nice. And then about an hour later, I heard the news, and I'm like, oh my God.
They were
okay, these are allegedly friends of theirs, and they know who these people are, so the next of kin and everybody's been informed. To the extent that they have a news crew down there, and the news knows who they are, and they're interviewing these people, but the police can't release their names. Why? Why can't the police release their names? If everybody knows, like, how do they know? How do they know? Who told them? If the police haven't released their names, how do they know? I don't get it. How do they even know who the people were? Because allegedly, from other reports that I can't find, the car was incinerated. They can't get a license plate, yet they know that it was a Bentley. But the car was incinerated. Apparently they found like a passport or something. Like, remember 9/11? The passport was quite a distance away from the car. So I guess that's what told them? Really? This just is mind-boggling.
Regarded as very good neighbors and kind friends.
They don't look very upset. Their neighbors and friends perished moments ago. They're talking to the media and they're like, oh, look, there's all these people in front of the house. They must be having Thanksgiving early.
It's really shock and devastation, and it's just gut-wrenching, really, really. They were so loved. They were so generous and kind and always willing to help, just plowing everybody's driveway for the love of it, you know what I mean? Just always willing to help and lend a hand, always, always, always. And they were just very kind, wonderful people.
Without ever being asked, they would just be giving and gifting, and it's the type of people that we just lost.
The couple were very public about doing good deeds, and the Bible says not to make your deeds known. and to do the works of the Father privately. This I take to be twofold. If you're going to do charitable work, you don't go bragging about it, because the bragging is making it inauthentic. It's the same as asking with motive. Second, the good works we're truly meant to do are that of the Father, meaning that we walk in the knowing that we have what we have asked for. This is why, to the man who said to Jesus that I have done good works in your name, Jesus replied, "Away from me, I never knew you," because this is not what the good deeds are. The couple crashed and burned due to trying to force the ascension process through doing good deeds, because their good deeds were external. The good deeds we must do to ascend are internal, so that the Christos oil can rise and you anoint your lamp within. And in terms of manifestation, good deeds refers to thinking in favor of your manifestation, not against it. These people sound like very Christ consciousness oriented people. He's wearing blue, he's wearing red. Last one out locks the gate. This to me is like the last one out of this realm locks the gate so that the people behind who can't ascend are not allowed to leave. You gotta lock the gate behind you.
Recipients of their generous giving included the Boys and Girls Clubs of Niagara Falls and the North Towns, along with this favorite place, the Niagara Sailing Clubhouse, which was heavily damaged by a March 2021 fire, now rebuilt largely thanks to this couple's contributions through their business and personal donations.
Without those folks, we would have...
So like, oh my God. If you didn't know who it was before, you do now, because all the people in the community, granted, know who funded that house. Like, why would they bother? Like, how can you get away with doing a report like this that's so detailed and gives away their neighbors, their business, like all practically shows the front door of their home, but no, we can't tell you who they are.
Police, again, we want to emphasize, not releasing the identities of the couple. They will also not discuss the type of car they were driving, but various reports indicate a very expensive vehicle.
We can't tell you what car they were driving, but it was expensive. They gave all the time, gave you lots of money, always eager to help, always giving. They had loads of money. They drove an expensive car. It was very expensive, but we can't tell you who it is. And yet they have people, witnesses, who said that it was a Bentley. Witnesses. When did this come out? This came out the next day. I'm pretty sure those witnesses were the same day. November 22nd. Yeah, same day. So they already released that it was a Bentley. And this guy's like, oh no, we can't tell them. We can't say what kind of car it was, but we can just say it was really expensive. It was really expensive car.
The governor telling us that this all started at about 11:27 a.m. this morning, and that it was a vehicle traveling at an incredibly high rate speed, crashed into the border protection booth, and that the booth and the car immediately exploded and went up in flames.
The car and the booth immediately exploded. Burst into flames. I saw the video of an airborne vehicle that was absolutely surreal.
Surreal, just like a movie.
You actually had to look at it and say, was this generated by AI? Because it was so surreal to see.
Was this generated by AI? Oh my goodness. Oh my, why? I can't believe she just said that. The one witness said it looked like a movie. She just said it was surreal and it could have been created by AI, which it was. She just admitted it.
See how high in the air this vehicle went, and then the crash, and the explosion, and the fire.
Wow, that's a high quality picture.
Are we going to go to Dave or are we going to traffic now?
I think Dave.
Let's go to Dave.
Let's just make it up as we go along.
Hello, David. What can you tell us?
Sorry, can we call you back, Dave?
Hi there, Scott. We're here near the Peace Bridge.
As with any allegory, there are multiple layers to the story. You can interpret it in a variety of ways. The way in which I interpret these events has to do with the middle path, ascension up Jacob's ladder, the middle pillar, the spine, which is Kundalini rising up the cerebrospinal fluid. It also has the same story applied to manifestation. I'm trying to weave the two together so you can see how it applies to both. The Rainbow Bridge event was a perfect mini-story of ascension. Taking place on November 22nd, 2023 at 11:22 means that this story is about the pineal, because this is the anniversary of JFK getting shot in the head. The white flying spur is the white horse, or Pegasus, the hippocampus where memory is stored in the brain. It raced up Main Street, the spine, from New York to Canada towards the border, the TNT, where the two worlds collide, the top of the spine. Jesus rides the white horse of meditation so that your desire can shoot past the other three horses to the hippocampus, the memory, where it becomes your new story so that your manifestation can be delivered via the cerebrospinal fluid in order to come into the physical. New York and Ontario represent the two hemispheres of the brain, and they are divided by Niagara River, or the cerebrospinal fluid, which is why this event is a fluid situation. The gap is joined by the Rainbow Bridge, God's covenant or promise to you, and the 7 chakras that help us ascend. The car failed to cross the bridge. The car hit a concrete curb and went flying in the sky just like the car did in Greece, being elevated, meeting Jesus in the air. The couple, male and female, inside the car passed through the 4 stages of consciousness: earth, air, water, and fire. 10-4, killing time, surpassing the physical because all is now. The couple first breezed past the second checkpoint, then crashed into a toll booth. The toll must be paid in order to cross the river. They didn't pay, so they can't cross. The road was closed. They tried to rush the Christmas tree or force the ascension. The couple had names meaning good deeds, and their surname meant worker, so the workers have to do good works in order to ascend. Their neighbors said that they were good people doing good works, but the fact that the neighbors all knew suggests that these people didn't do the good works in private, which is not what constitutes good works. The good works must be done inwardly and do the will of the Father, meaning you walk in certainty that your desire is fulfilled and then follow the script of the new story to bring it into the physical.